this week we learned that the Lord Advocate disclosed to John Swinney information about the prosecution of Peter Murrell that was not in the public domain. Over the years, we have seen the SNP apply pressure to institutions to get the outcome it wants, regardless of consequences. We saw it at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, where pressure was applied to open early and people died. So can I ask John Swinney, so this is on the official record for future reference, did the First Minister, anyone acting on his behalf, or any SNP adviser ask the Lord Advocate or any of her advisers at any point to be updated on the prosecution of Peter Murrell?
First Minister.
No.
Anna Sarwar.
I thank the First Minister for putting that on the record for future reference. It was the answer I was expecting, but let's see in the cold light of day where that goes. Presiding Officer, yesterday...
Let's hear Mr Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, yesterday... Really? I would just remind the Deputy First Minister and the Finance Secretary that there have been incidents before where members have misled this Parliament. So I'd be very, very careful about what they say. Presiding Officer, yesterday the Lord Advocate appeared to give inaccurate and contradictory information to this Parliament. She said she had not given John Swinney political advantage because, I quote, "From the point at which an indictment is served, there is no limitation on its terms being made public." But after the Lord Advocate had notified John Swinney, the Crown Office warned the media, and again I quote, "We have no comment. The indictment is not a public document until it is presented in open court." These two statements cannot both be true. If The Sun hadn't published the story, then the only people who would have known the details of this case before the election would have been the Crown, Peter Murrell, and bizarrely, because the Lord Advocate notified them, John Swinney and his SNP advisers. How is that acceptable and not the very definition of political advantage?
First Minister.
The point the Lord Advocate made yesterday is the minute the indictment is served on the accused, it becomes a public document because it can be made public as a consequence of that. That is why the statement is valid. Now, the reason why this is important and how I have contradicted Mr Sarwar's statement is because of the contents of the Lord Advocate's letter to Mr Sarwar yesterday. It is a damning letter. It says in the letter, in response to our correspondence from Mr Sarwar, and these are the words of the Lord Advocate, "The publication of your letter has put a number of factual errors into the public domain, and it is incumbent on me to correct them quickly and publicly in order to protect the rule of law." That tells us all we need to know. Anna Sarwar, putting factual errors into the public domain, undermining the rule of law. Anna Sarwar is unfit to lead the Labour Party.
Thank you. Mr Kerr, I would ask you to please be quiet. Anna Sarwar.
Officer, that's amazing coming out the mouth of John Swinney. These two sentences cannot both be true. From the point at which an indictment is served, there is no limitation on its terms being made public. Alongside that, the indictment is not a public document until it is presented in open court. Two contradictory statements that John Swinney cannot run away from. But there are lots of questions. If the Lord Advocate was recused from this matter, why was she corresponding with John Swinney about it at all? If it was for John Swinney only, why was the information shared with SNP advisers, and who did they tell? Why did the Crown Office refuse to share it with the media when the Lord Advocate told Parliament it was public information? Does he really expect us to believe he needs a specific warning from the Lord Advocate to give his favourite excuse? It's just not credible. So will he confirm that after he leaked this information to SNP political advisers, none of it was passed on in any form?
Mr Sarwar.
Was it passed on in any form to any other SNP politician or party official? But isn't the truth that this is just the latest episode of an SNP government with a rotten culture at its heart, where John Swinney and the SNP will always put their own party before Scotland?
First Minister.
What this is evidence of is Mr Sarwar's desperation. Absolutely. And it's becoming clear that as every week goes by, Mr Sarwar is getting more and more desperate about everything that he does. Now, in order for me to answer directly the point that Mr Sarwar has put to me, it is a matter of public record, the individuals to whom the information that was shared with me by the Lord Advocate was passed to. And that was all that it was passed to enable those who speak on my behalf to be able to follow the Lord Advocate's guidance. Now, the reason, so I've given a direct answer to Anas Sarwar, and I hope he's got the decency to accept the direct answer that I've given him. But I don't think he has, because week by week Mr Sarwar comes here and he attacks somebody's character. He comes here regularly and attacks my character. Yesterday, he didn't even have the guts to come here and say to the Lord Advocate's face the things he put, which prompted her in a letter, which prompted her to say that he was undermining the rule of law by his actions. That is somebody unfit to lead a political party. Now, why is Mr Sarwar desperate? He's desperate because he knows for all his efforts, his political ambitions are going absolutely nowhere. He's told the people of this country for years, back Starmer. He now wants us to believe that he wants Starmer out so that somehow the country can progress. Well, while Anas Sarwar goes around smearing individuals, undermining their character, I'm going to carry on supporting members of the public by reducing waiting times, opening GP walk-in clinics, keeping unemployment low and making sure that child poverty falls in Scotland. That's an SNP government delivering, and Anas Sarwar is finished.